Testing. Testing. Can you hear me? Testing. Testing.
Ready? Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Madera County Arts Authority to order and welcome our visitors. Joetta, would you lead us in? I pledge allegiance. You. Seated, everyone. Thank you all for coming today. We have our annual meeting today where we determine who's going to be our officers for this next year. And so we're going to start with the reorganization of the board. Item 2.A, which is the nomination and selection of the chair of the board of directors. I'm open for nominations to replace me.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Dr. Julia O'Kane as the chairperson.
That's a heck of a replacement. I'll second.
I'd like to move the nominations be closed.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, we did not practice that.
I know, that just rolled, man.
But I'd like to thank board member Whelan for his service last year as the vice chair. And item number 2B, just wanted to remind you, nomination and selection of the vice chair of the board of directors. I looked in the minutes.
I'll make a motion that I'd like to nominate Chuck Whelan as our vice chair.
I'll second. Moved and seconded.
I'd like to make a nomination that nominations be closed.
Okay. Second. Okay, great. Okay, well, now we have the nomination of Chuck Whelan as the vice chair. And I am planning on taking some trips this year, so you.
Me too.
Yeah. All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
what happened to the
Opposed?
discussion?
Motion carries. Chuck. Okay, and now our secretary has been someone here from the county office, Karen or Sarah? Karen, it's you. Okay. And so if it works for everybody else, maybe she would continue to be our person and then we just pay the county for your service.
I so move.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
Second. Close the nominations.
I so move.
I'll move to second to close nominations.
Okay,
But
we have,
the person who's the focal point of the motion would like.
It's an honor. Thank you.
you two didn't. Well, we don't want to take your honor away. All in favor of Karen Scrivener?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. This works out very well. Thank you very much, Karen, because we just pay a little money over to the county every month as an organization, and that keeps us legitimate and in our organization of our meeting and making sure we have our agendas and everything done right. And it saves us money on our lawyer because she helps us make sure everything's right, so we don't have to have a lawyer all the time.
May I ask who motioned and who seconded?
The motion was Joetta?
No.
I think Mr. Poythress.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Oh, Mr. Whelan made the motion,
Thank you.
seconded by Mr. Poythress.
Of course, I couldn't remember that I was vice president last year. So don't ask me.
Okay, and then finally, we have the selection of the treasurer. That has been ably done by Mr. Poythress. So is there a motion to nominate a treasurer for this next year?
I nominate Mr. Poythress.
Second.
Okay, nominated by Mr. Whelan and seconded by Artemio Villegas. Anybody else? We close the nominations, hearing no others. All in favor of Mr. Poythress being the chair being the treasurer for this year? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, good. So now we have our officers for the next year. And now, from my notes, or from Mr. Salinas's notes, it suggested that we wanted to discuss and establish terms of offices for directors. And so we were given some information you have it in your packet. Basically, that the terms of office shall be established by the Board of Directors annually. And unless we change the term, it's understood that it's 1 year. And then every first meeting in January, we vote just as we have today. If we want to change that terms of officers, we can alter those appointments from time to time by voting to do that. So, is there any discussion of this, or? I hear no discussion. So is everybody okay with just doing this annually?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, I worry about changing it because the electeds have, they're chosen by their boards. You are chosen by your boards or city council beyond this. And so if we stay with 1 year selections, then we're always in tune with whatever happens from those government entities that are coming at us. So, okay, so we'll be continuing with our business as is.
Would you like to take a vote on that?
No? Do we need to? Okay, we will. Is there a motion to retain to make our, to continue with the 1 year appointment for officers?
I make a motion.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any community input into that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the calendar. No. I'm lost in. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to go back to item number 3, which is the additions to the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
There are no additions.
Okay. Then item number 4 is public comment. Members of the public may address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take any action on any items presented under public comment. Any comment from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public session of the meeting. Item 5A is consideration of approval of the minutes for the November 27th meeting. And we have received those. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Poitras. Any comment from the audience? Any other comment from the board? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5B is the treasurer's report. I'll turn that over to our treasurer.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your recent reappointment.
Well, thank you so much. It means a lot and I will definitely celebrate this occasion. So thank you.
Okay.
Add it to my resume. But
Bring the campaign.
Yes, in regards to the our financial report, looking at the income statement, it shows that we have since inception of $141,560. Since inception, operating expenses were $61,028.86. Which comes up to, was 80,532, which resulted in net operating income 61,028.86. Adding in interest income, our balance then becomes net income 61,098.82. If you notice the balance sheet, it is 61,028.86. And that is prior to the addition of the interest income. We also have our expenses from July, August, September, October, November, December. They were primarily paid out to Madera County, not the individuals, but to the as far as staff members, but to the county for the hourly rate and time spent in helping to organize and operate the meetings. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no questions. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I so move.
Second.
The moved and seconded. Any discussion? Comments from the audience? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you very much. And item 5, oh, sorry. Getting ahead of myself now. Item 5C. This is our ad hoc committee report. And we have, I was just telling Mr. Rodriguez that we talked about the downtown project at our last meeting and invited him to come today to give us an update on what's happening with the Main Street project. And that we were interested in what kinds of vision you have for the downtown businesses and what you anticipate in that area, as well as the street improvements. Also, thank you for coming, Mr. Rodriguez.
And thank you very much for having me. For the record, Arnoldo Rodriguez, the city manager for the city of Madera, and I'm going to need some assistance. I'm not too sure how to get it from here to there.
I'm sorry, I was distracted.
I have that PowerPoint. I'm not used to this fancy technology at the county.
Microphone?
So I prepared a very brief overview on some of the efforts that the city is in the midst of for downtown. Some of it's in the heart of downtown, some of it touches downtown, but I think it's important to not simply focus on Yosemite. Rather, another focus area should be the neighborhoods surrounding downtown, because whenever you have strong neighborhoods, it's more than likely you'll have a strong downtown and vice versa. So I don't think that as a community, we can look at it in the silo and simply say, we're going to make the best of downtown in a 10-block area in the heart. But then if the neighborhoods around there are not also improved. So there's a little bit of both. I understand that this board is specifically interested in some of the, in the project that Caltrans is currently in the midst of. So Caltrans is in the midst. They have north of $14 million to make improvements to Highway 145. The project starts on Avenue 13, which is in Parkwood and 145, and it goes up 145 to Gateway, and then northeast. It's highlighted in the red here. Mouse. So it's highlighted in the red, and then at Gateway, it goes due northeast along Yosemite Avenue. It doesn't terminate where I stopped it here. It continues to go. And on this one, I'll have to defer to the county, but I believe it goes almost to where the railroad track is at east. So it's not just within the city, it actually bleeds into the county. So it truly is a regional project. The city is currently a little short. We've asked for some additional improvements that were beyond the scope of Caltrans. And so Caltrans has been very open to the idea, but at the same time, they're saying, city, open your checkbook, which is understandable. We have twice applied, actually more than twice, multiple times we've applied for grant funding. Well, we have brought on an outside consultant to assist us with those grants who specialize in those grants. We've been unsuccessful in obtaining additional grant dollars. The city council has conceptually directed staff to allocate north of $2 million to the project. And we're probably going to have to be going back to council for You were to ask me right now, probably about $1 million additional dollars that have not been identified. So the project overall is going to be an 18 million plus project. So this is not a cheap project by any means. The focus specifically downtown. So overall, can let me back up. So overall, the project is to improve Highway 145. So Yosemite Avenue, while it's in the heart of downtown Madera, it's actually a state facility. So anytime there's an issue in Yosemite, we call Caltrans, for example, pothole, street cleaning, those that is a responsibility of Caltrans. The city does not have the legal authority to work in that area. That's not to say that we don't improve it by cleaning it and street sweeping. I think legally, if someone were to interrogate us, that would probably be hard to defend. But this is an illustrative, specifically of East Street, to going on East Street and Yosemite. So this is going to be a street diet. The street diet is envisioned in about a 10-block area starting on East Street and going east up to Lake, just past of Lake. So the plan here is to do a street diet. The street diet would consist of taking Yosemite from 2 lanes in each direction with the continuous left turn pocket to 1 lane in each direction. The continuous left turn pocket would be modified. We would be introducing landscaping to the area. And then you would still have the left turn pockets wherever you would have a left, with the exception of B Street, C Street, and Lake, where we would be introducing roundabouts. So the existing signal lights would be removed and they would be replaced with roundabouts. Those roundabouts, the plan right now, and again, it's a very fluid plan, so please don't take this to the bank because it could change. Right now, it would have a hardscape with some landscaping in it. And then you would also have a bike lane on both sides of the road. When we were initially designing it, and I'm saying we designing it, it's largely Caltrans with city input. The idea was to have angled parking more recently, and I mean really, really recently. As a matter of fact, council has not seen this. They'll be seeing this in about 2 weeks. Right now, Caltrans is under the assumption that we may not be able to have enough space. So we would probably have to maintain the parallel parking. Initially, the idea was to have backup parking, but we're running into some challenges with space, which we knew all along that could be a challenge. Right now, the plans are about 60% designed. So they're definitely not at 100. So we're trying to flesh out some of those details as we speak. This is another illustrative. This shows C Street to B Street, B as in boy, and that also shows another roundabout. And again, it's very similar to the previous slide. The other thing that's worth highlighting is you notice at the intersection, we have some bulb outs here. The idea is to narrow the pedestrians' traffic path of travel going across the street. So the pedestrians would simply have a shorter walk. And again, the idea in downtown, if you go to most successful downtowns, they have a couple of things in common. Well, probably one of the biggest things they have in common is it feels safe and it's pedestrian friendly. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're largely trying to go back to what it was probably like in the 1940s and 50s when pedestrians felt safe to walk across the street. And then moving eastbound, we have A Street to Lake Street, and Lake Street also has a roundabout there. The areas going further east and then also going, I'll say south, those were, in terms of lanes, those would stay the same. The only place where we are looking at a street diet is roughly 10 blocks from East Street going eastbound, just a little east of Lake. And I can't tell you the precise location. It's a little bit east of Lake, though, probably another block. I'm not too sure if that's Vineyard or Fig. I'd probably have to look at a map, but I haven't seen the latest. Well, and what I'm showing is the latest, but this map stops at Lake. So again, it's still a work in progress. It's very fluid. I would not feel comfortable splashing this all over media and saying the city manager told us this is exact. It's not like that. And this is to be taken as a working document, and that's what it is. It's a working document. A couple of other things that were in the middle of the city retained RRM Design. RRM Design is an architectural firm out of San Luis Obispo. They are We are doing a tenant improvement at the old Greyhound station on East Street. We refer to it as the intermodal. That building is currently vacant. Well, it's mostly vacant. There's a small office there. But we are also in the process. We just launched a brand new bus route in Madera, a brand new, all of the bus lines were reprogrammed. We now have four bus lines, where historically the city had three. And three of them are gonna stop at the new intermodal station that we haven't started the design yet, but we're pretty well along the way in terms of the design, and we're gonna be moving staff to that building. So the idea is that we'll have staff there, we'll have public bathrooms, we'll have a waiting area for those individuals taking the bus at one to transfer. Greyhound will continue to serve the station as well. These are the new bus lines. We have a green line, the orange, the purple, and the blue line. We also kept the numbering system 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of them have a different symbol. And the idea being that there's 3 different ways to identify the bus lines for the community. But the red arrow right in the middle there shows where the intermodal is at, and it's almost at the intersection of East Street and Yosemite. And the idea being is that we're bringing activity to downtown Madera. That's going. At the end of the day, it does a better job of connecting the users of the bus system into for transfer points. You'll also notice that the blue line goes outside of the city limits. It goes up to the Matilda Torres complex, whereas the green line goes to Madera Community College, and the idea is to extend it once the Amtrak station is relocated into southeast of the city.
Oh, so we will connect to the new train station,
It is,
our bus system.
yeah. We've also applied for 2 separate SURF grants. We applied one specifically for Cesar Chavez Plaza. We also applied for a second grant, or it's the same grant application, but the alley connecting C and D streets.
This is our alley.
And this is the alley that has received a lot of discussion. And so we are waiting to hear word if either of those projects would be advanced by the SURF committee. Some other improvements that are worth highlighting that don't necessarily impact Yosemite themselves, but again, it's bleeding into the neighborhoods. We currently have a grant north of $500,000 for sidewalk repairs. We started this project about 7 or 8 months ago. We have 3 full-time city staff. They go into the lower income neighborhoods, specifically around downtown, and we are repairing sidewalks. Not new sidewalks, we're repairing sidewalks. And the grant is very clear. It's not for new, it's for replacement. We have a large project on Lake and D. That's the 5-legged intersection. One of the holdups with that is we started that project prior to the Caltrans project. Now with the Caltrans project moving on, we have to take a second look at that, because one thing that's come out of the downtown project is Yosemite Avenue is more than likely going to carry less volume. Some of those trips are expected to go on 4th Street. And so with additional traffic on 4th Street, we have to take another look at that 5-legged intersection in terms of what we're going to do there. The Frank Burgon Center, which is just on the eastern or the southern boundary of downtown, we have a grant for that we're going to be making some improvements. Again, we're trying to make some investments into all the city facilities around downtown. The goal being, if we can beautify our facilities, then hopefully that creates some synergy for the rest of the community. The Madera Police Department, we've made a lot of interior improvements. We broke ground on a new parking lot last Monday. So that project's happening as we speak. Maybe not today because of the weather, but that's a project that's ongoing. Swimming Pool Park, we will hopefully be I wouldn't say breaking ground, but rehabbing 2 of the 3 pools. We rehabbed one of them a couple years ago. We have about $215,000 in grant money to rehab those 2 pools. Fire Station 56, we're looking at some long-term planning. We're planning on making some pretty significant upgrades there. The city's already bought one of the adjoining homes. We've demoed that home, and we're looking at doing some land assembly around there. That fire station's key. It's the busiest fire station it serves the city well today. In 30 years, it may be in the wrong spot, but today and for the foreseeable future, it's a very good fire station. Again, it's very active. It's as busy as the other two, I believe, combined. So it's a very active fire station. And then a small win, but I do think it's worth noting is the downtown parking time restrictions are all they've all been updated as of last Thursday, and not all the signage, a lot of the signage is new. And we have the same signage throughout. One of the challenges is we had different parking restrictions for different parts. Some of them started at 7 a.m., some of them were 9 a.m. We made them all consistent from 9 to 6. That's as of late last week. Another item that's garnered a lot of attention in the community is cannabis. The city had previously approved 2 social equity cannabis permits. Those cannabis permits are not active. That's not to say they've been revoked, but the applicants have not made significant progress to my knowledge in terms of remodeling a building. So the city last month did issue an additional 6 retail licenses. 4 of them are on Yosemite. 1 of them is on Gateway, and 1 of them is on Country Club. I do not have a timeline in terms of when they would open. It's completely up to them at this point, them being the operators. It's a private market, and one thing government is not good at is guessing how the private market's going to react. This is a map that shows the 4 in downtown Madera. You have the one on the eastern edge, which I still refer to as the Guarantee Building. I'm not too sure what the latest name is, but growing up, it was Guarantee Bank prior to that.
City.
Penn City. Well, City, I believe, may be this one. And then you have the one on Yosemite and C Street, and then you have the one directly across the street. So those are the 4 in downtown Madera that were issued cannabis permits, and that was done last month.
Mhm.
Just going to mention, you're correct. That is city that's Chase, the one on C and
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yosemite.
Okay. Oh, that's Chase. That's, yeah.
Right.
I still go back to the old names when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That
oh,
was- That was
the
First
Penn
Interstate at C and Yosemite.
Store. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm glad
United-
I'm glad you knew the names of the banks as a child. That's good.
And it was United California Bank before
Yeah.
that.
Oh, wow.
I
Not that I was a banker or
Yeah,
anything.
not like,
Yeah.
spoken like a banker.
And then I'm also highlighting the intermodal. So that's the intermodal right there. And that's the current Greyhound stop. Greyhound will continue to be there, but our 4 bus line or 3 of the bus lines will be, will have a stop there. 1 of the lines will not, but 3 of the 4 will. And then the other parcel that's garnered a lot of attention at the city is the old, it's the old hotel site, which is a dirt lot. As the community is aware, that building burned about 5 years ago now, a little bit less than 5 years ago. The city since then has acquired the property. It was purchased at market rate. And the plan was at the time, and it continues to be, the city felt that that was such a important piece of property for the city's history that we felt it was important that the city acquire it. There are 0 plans as of today in terms of what to build on it. We're still going through the process. We're looking at potentially other properties. Is there some land assembly opportunities? Those are things that need to be fleshed out. But since we've acquired it, we've had a lot of balls in the air. We've had Yosemite, we've had Village D, we've had COVID. And so we've had a lot of things happen. And as we're working through those things, we want to make sure that whatever's done on that property, the community can look back in 100 years and say, boy, our leaders back then really got it right. And that's the goal. There's no plan right now. My vision, which again is not the city's vision because the council has ultimate authority, would be a multi-story building with multiple uses on it. Something that can, that's pedestrian friendly, that can provide services to the entire community, not simply one segment of the community. The upper floors, to me, in terms of the uses, they're important. I don't think they're as important as the first. I think the overall massing of the building and the design of the building is more important than the uses. Uses are temporary. Uses come and go. Buildings don't. And I think the design of the building in terms of is it conducive to certain activities is the most important part. The city also has some other properties in the area, but some of those are currently being used for surface parking lots. if there's ever opportunity, and hopefully there is in my lifetime, I think that would be an excellent opportunity to take a look at some potential reuse of some of the surface parking lots, because while you need parking, there's plenty of on-street parking in downtown.
There's plenty of parking in there.
And there's plenty of downtown parking. People just don't like walking, myself included. Sometimes, you know, I want parking in front, but if I go a couple hundred feet, you typically find parking.
And it's good for you.
Right. And that concludes my presentation. I know that was a pretty succinct. I can always come back if this board would want to dive into greater detail on any one thing, but I bounced around a little bit, but I was trying to keep it downtown Yosemite focused.
Are you taking any questions?
I'll leave that up to the board. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's difficult to park around the post office too. I think the post office is probably one of the places that needs some kind of parking.
Right.
Unless we make another post office somewhere.
Right. I believe the post office has about 80 plus employees. They do have adequate parking for their employees, but that's one of the areas that we identified some of the parking limitations were off. In front of some of the same buildings, we had parking started at 7, some started at 9. We changed that this week, or last week, I think it was Thursday. That is an area that lacks parking, but with a little bit of walking, most people can easily access it. There are some fairly people intensive uses there. There's some offices in the area immediately next door to it. There's CVOC. I believe the county may have some offices in there. I think behavioral health. And so it does get more than near fair share of visitors. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to maintain parking restrictions in that area, was to get their turnover.
And there's still going to be a lot of traffic on Yosemite. And if it's one way, that's going to be a disaster. To me, that's what I think. And parallel parking is great if people know how to parallel park. I have had to stop behind people that they nose in, they back up because they don't know how to parallel park. And I don't think on your driving test, you have to do parallel parking anymore. So parallel parking is great if you know how to parallel park.
I should probably clarify that. And the Yosemite is going to continue to be 2 ways. It's going to be 1 lane in each direction.
Yeah, but just 1 lane when we're used to having 2.
Right. And the goal is you want to slow traffic down to make it more pedestrian friendly. Whenever you have traffic traveling at high rates of speed, it's less conducive for pedestrian activity. But that's why we're also anticipating that 4th Street is going to increase in traffic. And that's why we started. I definitely don't want to say it stopped the project on Lake and 4th. I'll say that we're re-examining it to make sure we're going to get one bite at the apple. And we have to be sure that we do it right. And whatever we do in Yosemite is going to impact surrounding streets. And that's why we're starting to re-examine what's going to happen in the surrounding neighborhood.
And what is the accident rate on roundabouts?
Caltrans has excellent data on that. I don't have it in front of me. I don't want to misspeak. I know from reading some studies, again, very anecdotally, I'm not the roundabout expert, but my understanding is that even if the accident rate increases, the injury rate decreases because the traffic volumes or the traffic speeds are lower. So they're more fender benders, and they typically, I wouldn't say typically, but they're not as severe. But again, I'm not the subject matter expert. I'm speaking out of turn here. I'll just be quiet.
Oh, that's okay.
They do
do it
take some getting used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice if the city, I think it would make it much more pleasurable to go downtown if they clean the streets off. I think it's by California Grill in that corner right there. There's so much gum on the sidewalk that it looks like it's just been spot painted or something. Really ugly.
I completely agree with you. And one of the things that we did do in this year's budget, we started a new team at the city. It's 3 employees. So it's not an army of people. It's 3 new employees, 3 new positions that were authorized by council. We call it the Safe and Clean team. And the plan with that team is that they clean homeless encampments and they clean the river. And they usually clean things that aren't necessarily in anyone's scope of work. For example, those signs that say "We buy houses." If you drive around the city of Madera, you don't see those because we drive around and we rip them down. Yard sale signs, we have staff that drive around after yard sales and we take those down. But the goal is to try to clean the city, shoes over power lines. You don't see them in Madera anymore. We've made a concerted effort to try to identify those things that we consider nuisances. That sometimes you look at it and you're like, it's dirty, but you can't identify what it is. We try to cleaning those. Once we get a better handle on some of those things, which we're working through those because it's a brand new team. And the plan is that they'll focus on those public areas, for example, pressure
Yeah, because
washing.
it really looks awful and it's going to be hard to get off because there's so much there.
I agree.
But I thank you.
Absolutely.
I applaud you too for what you're trying to do to improve downtown. It's, I know it's a challenge, but you guys are making good progress. I'm interested, one of the things that we talked about at our last meeting was, so what kind of businesses are you looking for to be on Yosemite? Are you looking, is it going to be a restaurant theme, shops, stores, retail kind of stuff? You have any thoughts about what draws people in and what you're looking for there?
The city council as a whole has not had that discussion. I think most cities, I think it's going to happen organic. And I think private market is going to dictate which businesses go there. As a city planner, and that's my background, I want everything to be perfect and open 24 hours a day, right until 1, 2 in the morning.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's not the way the market operates. I think it's going to be very organic, and I think it's largely going to be dependent on the property owners about what tenants they can attract. The only thing that I can help control or guide, I wouldn't say control, the city council controls it, is help guide is which parcels the city controls and what happens on those parcels. For the rest of it, we do have the municipal code that outlines what happens. And I think it's going to be largely market driven. It's going to be the desires of the community and what businesses they support. If a community doesn't support a certain type of establishment, it's probably going to close down.
Is any work done by the Economic Development Commission?
I
To
partner
see value in downtown?
I partner a lot with Darren Rose. I think one of the challenges with downtown, we've been, I wouldn't call it a waiting pattern, but I think a lot of people are waiting for the Yosemite project to take off. That's one component. And another element, I think people were waiting to see what was going to happen with the cannabis permits.
Mhm.
Now that the cannabis permits have been issued, my understanding is that there are some cannabis companies that were not awarded a license that had, they had options on some leases.
Mhm.
I think those will probably go by the wayside now. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in those spaces.
Right.
So our goal as a city is to get every building occupied. That's the city's goal. We don't want
I'm
vacant
just wondering if
buildings.
there's any marketing that goes along with that. How you recruit potential buyers for buildings and.
I'll be working with Debbie Brain, the DBA, a lot closer, hopefully in the next 6, 7 months. But like I said, I think some of it was simply on a holding pattern because people were
Right.
anticipating things happening. And now that we've crossed that threshold, I think the next one will be downtown Yosemite and the Caltrans project. Now that project is slated to begin in 2025.
I have it on my calendar. Other questions? Comments? Or
I
Tito?
have a comment. Thank you, Arnaldo. Good presentation. Thank you. I just want to remark about what Arnaldo saying. We want Yosemite to be more beautiful.
Right.
Beautify the city, starting the Yosemite. The Yosemite is need to repair, especially on the road. So, and that's a big. It's going to be a big impact, and it's going to be looking different. It's slowing down. I see people in Yosemite running like in the freeway. Young people with a car, the Mustang, whatever, the muscle cars. Hey, it's not a freeway. It's the middle of the city, so that will help a lot to slow down and minimize the accidents. So and looking beautiful. That should be the best for the city of Madera. That's my remarks.
Yeah, I look forward to this coming online as well, but tend to think of flip side of the coin, which is assuming this works out as planned, meaning downtown is more beautiful, there's traffic, traffic is moving more slowly. What are people going to look at? That empty lot there at Yosemite Street, some of these buildings that used to house banks and stores back 50s and 60s and early 70s, those decades. And I do appreciate the comments about the organic driving force of commercialism, but I'm not sure how to put this delicately. I'm just curious as to what efforts the city will be making in regards to code enforcement, buildings that have been there more than 100 years, and in too many cases look like they've been there for more than 100 years and had very little done to make them appealing to the eye, safe users, safe to passersby. I remember a few years ago when in one or two of these sidewalks where the glass blocks were, and underneath the glass block, there were portions of basements of buildings, and you could look up and see the skylight, but cracked so long, weren't maintained, obviously injured. So I'm hoping, I don't know how to achieve this, but I'm hoping that as the improvements in downtown come about and more people become aware that there is some effort by the city, county, and even the school district. District has an interest in moving presence to downtown Madera, but I hope that there's some effort made to encourage an organic improvement with new businesses, but also an upgrade as to buildings. Because if you don't force people to do what they're supposed to do, right for the community, what the code may say, not going to spend the money to do it. I'm hoping, not asking, just hoping that there is something more than a wait and see attitude part of the public entities. Otherwise, taxpayers are spending millions of dollars, something that slowly drive through nicely redesigned street and look at buildings that would discourage them from going back a second.
Okay, we're gonna, yeah, we have, you want to come up to the microphone though and ask your question? And identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Eddie Latif. I work for Madera County Arts Council. Hearing Arnaldo, thank you so much for all the information you shared. I do have a question. I do come to the surf meetings and I do hear a lot about downtown improvements. And it was quite interesting to actually look at it in details and know exactly where you're heading. But my question is, when you look for reference or for inspiration for improving the downtown, where are you guys looking? And yeah, I just want to know, where are you guys looking? Like, it would be nice to give me an example so I can, or not me, but for all of us to like have a vision of what kind of downtown it could look like.
Ken, that's an excellent question. Some of it's my background's a city planner. I was a city planner for 17 years for both the city of Fresno largely, and then later Yuba City, which has a beautiful downtown. It's very comparable to Madera. It's about 1,000 people larger, but their downtown design wise, it's extremely impressive. I think what they're challenged with is they lack destination places, which I think that's an organic process. So in terms of inspiration, I don't think there's a downtown we can look at specifically. I think there's lots of different elements from different communities. For example, Asheville, North Carolina is an excellent example. That's a rural community that's comparable to Madera, slightly different demographics, but they've inspired a lot of urban kind of renewal in the past 20 years. I think closer to California, you always tend to look at some of the more nearby cities that have done an excellent job. Visalia has done an excellent job. There are elements of Fresno, the Tower District specifically, that are comparable to downtown Madera and Olive Avenue. There's elements of Merced that that look good. You know, 'cause Davis is always an easy one. Lodi is always a good example. And so I don't think there's one example. I think a couple of things with Madera that do make it unique. I think they're challenges. In some ways, they're opportunities. One of them is that the property is owned by Caltrans. That's the communities that I mentioned. I don't know of one of those that has the same situation. The other item is we have a railroad track that runs through the heart of our community. That poses some challenges. We have a river that runs the opposite direction. I don't know of another city that has a state highway, a railroad, and a river similar to ours. The best way I can put it, take the San Joaquin River and put it out where Shaw Avenue's at, and that would be our example of Fresno. And so I think we have some challenges there, but I also think we have some opportunities in that we have very short block lengths, and that's a positive. Whenever you have short block lengths, it makes it pedestrian friendly. So I do think that's a real asset. The other thing is we have the core of our community has some very stately homes. We have some that are not, but we do have some very nice homes. So I think we're starting off in a position of advantage there. I think some of it's going to go back to what the judge said earlier about code enforcement and holding people accountable and having them make improvements. I think that's a real positive. And so I do think, so we're not a college town. We have to start off with that. So we don't have an influx of 15,000 students buying things every September with their parents' money. Unfortunately, that would be a nice problem to have. But we have a railroad, a river, and Caltrans, and we have an older part of the community that, going back to something Councilmember Villa said, that was designed to carry the volume of traffic of almost a state highway. And we're sitting here 100 years later saying we want it to be pedestrian friendly. So now we're trying to retrofit a state highway into a pedestrian friendly environment. One of the commonalities, if you look at a lot of the cities I just mentioned, their downtowns are pedestrian friendly. They slow traffic down. No one is trying to rush traffic through your downtown. You're trying to slow it down. That's the goal. And I think it's going to be a combination of things. I think there's a lot of things we can learn from other communities, but at the end of the day, when we look back on 20 years, I think we may have to say Madera learned, or we gleaned a little bit from 20 other places, but Madera did it its own way. I don't have all the answers. It's not going to be the city. I think it's going to be a partnership.
When I was young, downtown was owned by, local family businesses. That's the only place you had to go to. Now we have shopping centers. And so people go to different shopping centers, or they go to Fresno, but they don't shop downtown like they used to when I was young. Sure.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. How people engage the built environment has changed a lot. Technology's changed a lot. You can never leave your home and you can have everything you want. I think downtown, what we have to make it is the third place in society where people want to go. You want to socialize, you want to hang out, you want to have coffee, you want to go for a stroll, you want to go window shopping. That's not, I'm not gonna say corporate America doesn't do that anymore, but it's going away from that. And I think that's one of the reasons why suburban malls are struggling. Online's made it too easy. So ours, I think, is gonna be about placemaking. And I think the cities that do placemaking well and create a pedestrian friendly environment, a place where people want to hang out. And that's a challenge. We're not alone in that challenge. We're one of thousands of cities that are trying to find the secret recipe. And I think it's going to be tough, but I think there's enough smart people in our community and in this room that can help do it.
Go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, but everyone goes to
Get a
Starbucks.
Starbucks. Great. Well, we want to work with you. That's why we have a representative from the city council on our arts authority. We think that a big part of placemaking is going to be what we do with the arts. Because performance and art is all part of why people gather. Restaurants are all part of why people gather. So I see a lot of hope in future and want to continue to work with the city. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And
for
I'll
having
be,
me.
and I'm scheduled to, I'll be scheduled, I think soon, to come to a city council
You
meeting
will.
to talk about, to show our video. And thank you for all that you've done so far. And then hope that we can continue to work together.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Item 2 is downtown mural project. Oh, I'm sorry. I see Mr.
Sorry, Madam Chair, Nick Salinas, Chief of Staff with Madera County. Just had one final thought and one comment on that. Thank you, Arnoldo, for your informative presentation. The subject of downtown is something we've discussed thoroughly with the Madera Downtown Association. And my thought was, if it's the preference of the board, perhaps we could put together an ad hoc committee between the city, county, downtown association, and maybe perhaps a school district to kind of put some focus on that. Recently, one item we came across was the improvement plan for Kingsburg, City of Kingsburg.
Yes.
They were an award recipient at a conference we recently attended. So there was an interest in having discussions with them. However, the Downtown Association felt it was prudent that the other jurisdictions here locally be a part of that conversation as well. So with the support of your board, I think that would be something worthwhile to putting our time into.
Okay, so what are you thinking? An ad
Perhaps an
hoc?
ad hoc committee, an appointment by the city, county, downtown association, arts council, and the school district. And I'll
Yeah.
look for a thumbs up from Arnoldo if that sounds like it's something. Again, just a thought.
I think it's an excellent idea. I think one of the challenges that we have at the city right now are we're having some bandwidth issues. I think a project of that magnitude will undoubtedly have to bring in some outside resources from the city to help do that. And while I think it's a great idea, a lot of our effort right now is tied up on this project, Village D,
Yeah.
the Westbury Bridge, and we are looking at some grant opportunities for Gateway Avenue. So while I would welcome it, I think right now, if someone were to say, city, can you do it today? I think it'd be a real challenge for us. And it's not, please don't take this as opposition. I'm simply looking at it from a resource issue. Because we do have a lot of balls in the air right now. I think if you ask me in 6 months, I probably have a slightly different reaction. And also I think it would be most appropriate for our city council to make that determination before I speak confidently in any direction. I definitely don't want to speak on behalf of the council. That's not an item I've broached with the council before, and I think it would be unfair to them.
Any question, Nick? Does anybody have any questions about what Nick just asked about?
No, I think it's a good idea. Just has to be timely.
I'm confused about, we already have a arts authority that has the city, the county, the school district, and arts council involved. How would what you're talking about be different than that or in addition?
Simply in the focus to downtown and having a member of this authority participate in that. Looking at what Kingsburg did, it's a pretty in-depth, it was a planning grant they attained, and we've wanted to welcome that conversation to the Downtown Association as a Downtown Association board member, but we felt it would have been most appropriate to have other jurisdictions at the table for that discussion. So to bring that discussion to this authority would be a little weighted on one end, if that makes sense.
Madam Chair, just have a question. Who is the lead agency you recall in regards to that Kingsburg revitalization?
The recipient of the award for the revitalization was the Community Development Director for the city of Kingsburg.
Okay.
And she was willing to sit with us and go over, the planning process and the grant, and then all the steps it took moving forward to revitalize their downtown.
So do you think it would be helpful to have a broader audience listening to that? Is in your thinking, take that and try to do something with it?
Yeah, it would be a take on understanding how and what Kingsburg did to get to their success. And I think having different representatives from each agency at that core meeting to report back to each of the respective boards once we can, start channeling the vision.
Madam Chair, I might suggest that at our next meeting of this board, maybe the individual from Kingsburg could Zoom in and so she didn't have to make a special trip and maybe provide a short presentation just to kind of kick off the subject and so that we can dig a little deeper into that because you know what it is. I mean, it's called leadership. And somebody has to take the reins and lead the effort and move forward. And that's what I think we're looking for in this particular situation. So I think it would be a good place to start and she can talk about the different stakeholders and people who really made a significant impact moving the ball forward.
We can definitely get that.
Okay.
I agree with you. I was just talking to somebody a week ago from town that's concerned about things like parades. And are we going to be able to continue to have those? We don't seem to have any kind of structure to do that. And we've talked about having outdoor events, but where's the structure that puts that into place? And we don't really have, I mean, then you talk to the city and rightfully so says, I got a lot going on here. So how do other cities coordinate that? And I think that's what you're asking. So somebody's got to take the lead on it. Okay, so, was I staring at you? No. Okay, so we could get some more information from Kingsburg.
Right. So yeah, we could reach out and get that. I think it'd be a great opening salvo in terms of what it took and what it looks like today.
Okay. Mr. Salinas, you'll help us. Will you help me get that person? Okay, great. Okay, anything else on that? Gonna add another little wrinkle in here with the item number 2, which is an update on the murals throughout downtown Madera, where we're running into some of the same kinds of issues, which is who takes leadership on the issue of murals in downtown Madera. If somebody doesn't take leadership, we could end up with a mess. So, so I invited Mr. Kaur and Arish to come over today. Oh, this is Arish Latif, if you didn't catch her name before. She's new to the Arts Council, and she works on our community development and so a media gallery manager and things like that. So welcome. Okay, Mr. Kaur is going to talk about his thoughts about where we could go with organizing our mural projects.
Happy New Year. Hello. I'm Jim
Happy
Clark.
New Year.
I'm the executive director with Madera County Arts Council. It's good to see everybody. I came on a good day, I think, to hear about some of these future plans. So exciting stuff. I just celebrated my 4th year with the Arts Council, and it's already starting off with excitement. Arij Latif is our gallery manager and outreach coordinator. She joined the group officially about 6 months ago, and between her and Tessa Smallwood, who is our arts education coordinator, they have both hit the ground running, and we have more projects, more things in the future than we have since the entire time before that I've been here. So very exciting times. Not only do we have arts in the classrooms with Madera Unified School District, we've also expanded that into Sherman Thomas Charter School and St. Joachim Catholic School. We have arts projects in there. We have a brand new exhibit opening at the Circle Gallery. It just opened last Thursday called Yosemite Renaissance 38. So we're bringing local art into the community as well. And then we're getting lots of mural questions. We want to start making murals. I think the one that CASA created, I think it sparked some things in folks as far as what could possibly be if somebody wants to bring a mural in to the downtown area. And so it got us thinking and scratching our heads that we might want to put together, not only do we might want to, we should put a system in place to give people in the community a sense of what the steps are to get a mural created on the side of their building. Because there's a lot to it. And I think there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And I think there is things to consider for folks, including what should the subject matter be? What's their budget for a particular mural project? And where is that mural going in the city limits that could potentially become a great hotspot for social media posts to welcome people in, and this fantastic presentation we saw on Yosemite Avenue. There are some great spots that could potentially bring murals into the downtown area. So it got us thinking about, gosh, could this lead us toward an arts district in downtown Madera? And could murals come through the Madera County Arts Council, and we could then help people with their project, what their budget is, what the subject matter might be? Because as it stands right now, there's really no rules for folks. If somebody wants to put a mural up on their building currently, there's nothing to stop them from doing that. We have the one down on Yosemite of that poor tragic incident with the young baby who was murdered, and there was an event that happened, and somebody painted a mural up on a building, and there it is. And it was a moment, it was an event, it happened, and yet it's controversial, to say the least. There are people who really like it and think it should be there. There are other people who think, how do we sunset a subject like that? How does a business owner then say, okay, maybe we need to move on to the next project and paint that over? How do you paint over a mural of that kind? So there's lots of things to think about. And as the Arts Council, we are ready and willing to do that. But I also think that we need some help as far as being for lack of a better term, kind of a clearinghouse, if you will, to help people understand what they could get painted on the side of their building, what they should get painted, and what are some of the possibilities. We have a great line with mural artists who certainly can do the work and get them set up. So one of the reasons that we wanted to come here today is to kind of talk to the Madera County Arts Authority and see what you all think about how we might move forward and how we might sort of turn that into a system and a process.
How much insurance do you have?
Do I have personally?
No, the Arts Council. I mean, I asked the question almost, not quite, but almost facetious. Because when you start telling people what they can and cannot do by way of their expression, as you say, there are going to be some people,
True.
especially if it's a property.
Okay.
But it's an open-ended question.
Yeah, I get you. People might be upset with getting guided into a particular subject matter or format or what have you.
Well, it's a no-win situation because if you have rules, you expect people to abide by them. That could generate a problem. But if you don't have rules, that could generate a problem too. So you have to be rather broad-minded, but at the same time, understand what is, and I hate to use the phrase good taste.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember a Supreme Court decision a long time ago talking about the issue of pornography. Supreme Court decision was so vague, kind of whatever you think is pornography is pornography.
It's sort of the I know it when I see it
Yeah,
kind of attitude.
exactly
Sure.
what the wording was.
Mhm. Good. Other thoughts?
Well,
So let me throw it back.
Go ahead.
Let me throw it back at you, Jim. If
Sure.
you're saying that this might be something that the Arts Council would be willing to do, why not put together something and present it to the Arts Authority? But ultimately, I think it's not really so much an Arts Authority, because if it's downtown era, then maybe, I'm not convinced of this, maybe City of Madera, ultimate driving enforcement, maybe not. So if we, and I use the word we extremely broadly, come up with some sort of framework with the expectation that people are going to abide by it, well, then there's got to be an enforcement. Who's going to do the enforcing? And if people don't abide by it, there are the sanctions, if any, abiding by it. So the longer I hear myself talk, the more I think that it really boils down to what the property owner is willing to do.
Or the downtown
Right.
association, yeah.
I don't know about a downtown association. In an association or an authority or a city or a county might have a suggestion or a thought, but at the end of the day, it's the property owner.
Right.
And the property owner is going to be expected to have property insurance
Sure.
that hopefully is broad enough to deal with issues like this. I'm not sure where
well,
public entity would get involved in it like us.
right.
Maybe there's somebody out there, maybe there are communities out there that have already dealt with. I don't know.
Yeah, we're in talks right now. We have calls into Merced County Arts Council and also Fresno County Arts Council to see what their procedure is. But it seems as though both those arts council entities have had some participation in creating murals, and then others have just been through the businesses and finding an artist themselves. Did you want to add something on, Chairman? Okay.
A couple things. One is, we had the experience with the Hope, mural. And in that case, obviously the person who owns the building needs to agree that they're going to have a mural and has to agree to whatever is going to be put on that mural. Okay. And of course, if they have something they want to put on it, we don't have any way of saying, no, you can't. But in this case, we had somebody that wanted to use the building in CASA. They made agreement with the owner of the building. They went out and searched for
Artists.
artists.
Uh-huh.
They had a little committee look at the results of the artist's work, and then they chose one that the owner agreed to and CASA agreed to. That would be the final mural. So it went simply like that. You have more recent experience with the freeway
Yes, we do.
murals,
Mhm.
which could have been a huge disaster, but turned out you had
Worked out, Arnaldo.
you had a small committee that worked on that process. So why don't
Right.
you hear that?
Right. So the State Road 99 project is the sound wall over on 99 freeway near the 4th Street exit heading southbound. And right, southbound, do I have that right? Yeah, the big northbound, excuse me, northbound. And we went through the process of putting out a request for proposal. We got artists to submit their work, and we chose 3 different options, which then went to City Council for a final okay. And it's happening. I got a project manager on the case here 2 weeks ago, and this thing is happening. And from what I'm hearing, again, I'll say, like Arnaldo said, don't quote me on this, but from what I'm hearing, it's potential that the pieces of art could be on that wall as early as March 15th of this year. So we'll see how that's happening. The pieces are being photographed. They're going to be getting into frames, And then the next step is to get them up onto the sound wall. But let me tell you something. It's a huge, huge project, which, came into the Arts Council offices, and I sort of picked it up and said, "Oh, what's this?" And they're like, "Well, it's a sound wall project, and Caltrans is doing it." So I ended up doing quite a bit of the work. Not that I'm complaining, but I also can see where mural projects coming in the door. We've had 2, 3 already where people are coming to us, which is great. I'm happy that people are coming to us to say, "Hey, we want to get a mural done. You guys are the Arts Council. Can you help us out?" But it's also a huge project, which I would foresee needing an additional person to even head that up if it's going to be anything like downtown Merced. And they have quite a few large scale murals that have been done recently in the last 2 years that are just spectacular. So that's the exciting part as the member of the Arts Council, is that when I see the results of a community that has a very robust mural project and the quality of work that's being done, and side note, the amount of money that's been willing to be spent on those projects, because murals ain't cheap. It could be something really dynamic that could lead us toward a Madera Arts District in downtown, and using that, where the Hope mural is, expanding that out where TJ's is, blowing out the edges of that whole project could be very, very exciting if we can somehow, as you say, Mr. Whelan, the whole idea of, getting what we think we want up on a wall is tricky, and it requires some, what I would describe as finesse, to get the pieces that we want, because you could have a great wall that's in front of the train tracks, right? That's a great entryway into downtown. And then somebody wants to put up a little mural that's this big that says, "Hi, Mom," or something, so you've lost that opportunity to make something really impactful and really exciting.
As I'm thinking and listening to you, it may be that the best answer to your question is for perhaps the Arts Council to come up with guidelines or suggestions for local property owners
Yeah.
as to what they should consider in deciding whether and what to do relative to a mural. And yes, the identity of the artist and what goes up on the wall and the cost are the upfront considerations. But to me, the importance is in the devil's in the details, like who owns that artwork wall, the artist or the property owner? And a contract that specifically says how long this is going to be up. Is it something for 5 years? Something that's up for a year? Kind of like a landlord-tenant agreement,
Right.
unless renewed, unless, cut off 30 days before the year is up, it'll stay up for another year. But most importantly, who owns that? So that if the property owner wants to remodel and make an addition that would cover up that piece of art, who has the right to
Yeah.
cover it up? It's
Those are
paint
all-
or brick or mortar or whatever.
And those are the kind of questions
Yeah.
that were asked and answered in the contract with the owner of the building for the Hope mural.
Good.
Yeah, you have to go through all of that and make sure you know how long it's good for. You have to know the quality of the materials going into it, subject matter, all that.
And those are decisions made between CASA and the building owner, or CASA, the building owner, and the artist, or all three, or
All three in this
all
case.
three?
All three again, yeah.
all
If I
three
were
in
the
this
artist,
case.
I want to know other people's conceptions as to
Yeah.
my interest in that on a basis.
The drivers are who's paying for it and who
Sure.
owns the building. And then what they're willing to, what they want, what they're willing to pay for.
But
Now,
I would
know
get,
that the
oops,
ci-
excuse me,
the-
go
the-
ahead.
The city of Madera, I believe, 100 years ago, when they got those murals done, the one that's in the parking lot next to Layton's.
Uh-huh.
And then there's one behind the what used to be, I think downtown buffet in there, a few more. And I think they put a theme to those, and I think the city did that theme. And then the business owner says, yes, I want one, and they put together the contract that steered what was going to be done specifically and how much it was going to cost and what the deal was. I'm afraid, I don't want the city to get into the place where they have to approve murals. I'd like to stop somewhere before that. Oh, good, I see you, yeah, come on up. Because that can be a nightmare, I think.
So for my experience with murals was at the city of Fresno when it was being established, and it may have changed, but I actually wrote the ordinance initially for some of those murals. Now it's I've been gone for over 8 years, so it may have changed. I'm not too sure what it is today. But one thing that come my ask of anything that happens, be it murals, land uses, any vision plans, have to go through the city of Madera. The city has police powers over land use, and so any idea in terms of any concepts that come up for Madera should have to heavily involve the city of Madera. Murals do require a sign permit. They are regulated by the municipal code, and so some of this goes back to what Judge Wheeland was saying earlier. You start getting awkward waters very fast when it comes to signs, regulations, First Amendment, free speech. But you do have to get a permit from the city.
Does the city has a policy that requires a permit?
It's in the municipal
Permit.
code, if I recall. I'll have to double check, and I believe the last mural that went up near Pete's Sport Shop, my recollection is it had to go through something like
You might want to have your staff check on that.
that. I will.
Because we should be, I don't think we went through the policy city,
And I think that's created some issues internally for the city.
but I think we should check on it because when we looked at this several years ago, we did not, the consultant who looked at it for us
Yeah.
did not find that policy.
Okay.
So
It-
we should
it's-
make sure we have that policy in place is what you're saying.
Most codes, again, it's been evolving over the past couple of years, but again, I'm going to go back a decade here. Most codes, murals were housed within the sign ordinance. And unless someone is familiar with how sign codes are typically written, again, I'm not going to say all of them because they've evolved over the past 10 years. And so maybe a lot of municipal codes now house them under a different section. I think they call them mural sections or, public art or something along those lines. And now they contain their own sections of the municipal code. Historically, most municipal codes, my personal experience was that they would be embedded in the sign code.
Okay. Is there someone we should be talking to?
Will Tackett at the city.
Will? Okay.
Yeah. And actually, Will was heavily involved with Fresno's. Will just joined us from the city of Fresno
Oh.
here.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so he'd be a good one to kind
Yeah.
of share information and come up with a plan.
Yeah, he oversaw the whole thing.
Okay, we'll tack it. Great. I'm glad you're here today. Anything else we want from the city while we're? This is the whole purpose of our organization, is to try to bring our agencies together to do something.
No, we appreciate the partnership. I think sometimes though, it's understanding roles and responsibilities. My ask of this board is just to be mindful of that whenever any direction is given. Because there are some things that I heard today that cause a little concern for me in terms of roles and responsibilities, land use authority, police powers, those types of things.
Mhm.
And there are some things that quite frankly are the city's responsibility. And my only ask is that this board or any other board be cognizant of that and reach out and have an open dialogue.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further from me, folks? That
No.
was,
For me,
that was,
thank you.
that was where I landed.
Sounds like next step is to talk to Mr. Tackett.
We'll tack it. Yeah. But I mean, who knows? I mean, in a, not a perfect world, but in a scenario, it could be that, any mural would end up going through the Arts Council as its first stop along the way of its, project. So we'll see. We're open to it. And want to help wherever we can. We think this is a good place for us to be as far as helping to guide these projects to completion. Thanks for your input.
Okay, thank you. Along the lines, we have item 3, which is direction regarding the Madeira mural. I think it was our last meeting. We had someone come forward and say that they could design a mural that said Madeira on it that could go downtown. And they had a muralist who would do that. We have lost contact with that contact. But then we got a phone call from an owner downtown that wants to move forward with a mural that says Madeira on it at the entrance into downtown. And so that has kind of livened our discussion related to this about how we would go about doing that, and where we have one where we've got the subject matter, how do we move forward with that? And so hopefully maybe we'll engage the Tackett in that part of the discussion with, whatever the city requires that will help us with that. So we have another one interested. It's, is it Dr. Javed, his building? Yeah. Is he a doctor or is he the son? Okay. That building, which is right at the railroad track entering to downtown. And the concept was there that we'd have one of those 10 by 15 or whatever they are, says Madeira. And then we'd have that, however we were going to do that artistically. That could be used for, marketing Madeira. So we'll go ahead and talk to Mr. Tackett and then come back with what we can find out about what we need to do. Okay, great. Anybody else? One of our livelier meetings. Okay, we have one more item, which is 5D, and that's a discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving the 2024 meeting schedule for the Arts Authority. You have that in your packet with the suggested dates. What we normally do is schedule a meeting a month. If we have to cancel it, that's okay, as long as we have 6 meetings in the year. We have one change that needs to be made in that resolution and so far, and that is May 27th is not going to be a possibility for a meeting. So I think we could go ahead and cut that out. Right? That's a holiday?
Memorial.
That's Memorial Day.
Memorial Day,
Yeah.
yeah.
Other than that, these meetings, dates work okay?
Well, we
I
have,
don't have the copy
have a-
though.
we have a conflict for the
Oh.
chambers on the week, well, for the meeting of February 26th. The week of February 24th through March the 6th, elections will be using our chambers and needs them secure. Now, there is a civil service meeting the same day at 5:30, so I could check with the clerk, the county clerk, to see if she's willing to let us come in 2.5 hours prior to that at 3:00.
So
If you'd like to hold a meeting in February.
okay, but if we cancel the February meeting, we're okay. We can get by without a meeting in February because we're having one this month.
Okay.
And then we don't have to worry.
The other issue is October 28th. Elections is using the chambers October 26th through November the 6th. And needs them secure. Needs the
Okay.
room secure.
Great. And again, we can have a meeting in September and November and be okay. So we can cancel the 28th. And then 5/27, which is a holiday. Okay, great. So with that, is there a motion to approve the resolution, to adopt the resolution?
Yeah, I'll move to adopt the dates that are in our packet minus February 26th, May 27th, and October 20th.
Second,
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You're gonna send us the updated schedule.
Okay, and we need to poll the board? Do we need to poll the board? or just okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we note that Mr. Poitras has left the room.
On with Elvis.
Okay, we're set. Let's see. So, member and staff reports. I just want to just briefly say that, we're going to, we have our video that we're going to show at the city council, the county board of supervisors, the Madera Unified Board, and the Arts Council. And we've scheduled February 20th now, to do the one here at the county board of supervisors. Mr. Rodriguez has been in touch about setting up a date with the city council, and I need to get back over to the school district.
I
because-
reminded Tom.
Okay. Busy.
You know.
Yeah.
Being
Busy.
a superintendent.
So yeah, so we're getting scheduled with everybody. So that'll be good. We don't need to take a lot of time, but people in the community are wondering what's happening. So this is a chance to show off a little bit that work is happening. And then give the city, the county and the school district an opportunity to say, and this is what else we're doing besides that. Okay? Great. Okay, anybody else? Then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Thank you especially, Mr. Rodriguez, for taking the time. And Nick, of course.
Thank you, Glory. Yeah.